Boom, there it is. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Land Closers Academy today. We've got a special guest with us that I am so excited about. It is my good friend, Mr. Clay Hepler. If you don't know Clay, he'll tell us more about his story here in a little bit. But, this is a guy that I've heard about for a while now. We've got some mutual friends, and over time, just couldn't help but getting in each other's business. I'm half teasing when I say that. But all that to say, over the past few months, he's become started out as a client, became friend very quickly, and now is somebody that, hopefully we get to JV some good deals here soon. Clay, I'm so excited to have you on, man. It's been exciting to see your growth as you guys have scaled up to having multi-six, and I think this month will be a seven-figure month for you guys in pipeline profit. So yeah, excited to break down your business, see what we can learn from you, and just thank you for being here, man. Say hello to the people, and if you want to kick us off with, give us some background. Who is Clay and why are you here?
Yeah, man, it's great to be on. And, it's interesting as try to become better as a business owner. A lot of times your problems in your business that need to be solved, you need a who, not a how.
Mm.
And I have historically been a very good at sales, very comfortable at sales. But I brought Ajay on, and a couple months ago, pleasure to work with him. Guys, if you're not working with Ajay, you're making a big mistake. And he did not even tell me to say this. But we are going to hit in projected profit. It's going to be a $3 million month.
Wow.
And um, the reason why we've been able to do that, and of course, we're land investors. So do I close $3 million? There's 0% chance, like maybe half that, right? Maybe 60%. Um, but bringing Ajay on has been amazing because it's enabled me as the business owner to coach where I need to coach. And Ajay, everyone's like, hey, I get so much value from Ajay's weekly calls. And I can still coach and do the one-on-ones, which I still do, but it's really helped us get that outside perspective. It's like, uh, when someone wants to have candy when you're a little kid, I always knew I could go to my dad. I don't go to mom. My people don't want to go to mom. They want to go to dad, right? Like they want. So that's the thing. That's when you bring on someone, and so yeah, man. I just want to give you some props here.
Man, I did not pay him or ask him to say that, guys. That means a lot, man. And it almost reminds me, I remember the first time we chatted about the inner circle. You were like, man, I'm gonna be honest, I'm pretty good at sales and I like do the sales training for my team. Like, I'm not sure this is really something we need. And I was like, hey, like I'm despite being a sales guy, I never hard sell people in my network, where I'm like, hey, dude, like, look, to be honest, I really only want people jumping in if they're like pretty excited about it. So like no stress, like no worries. And then I think you hopped on a webinar that we did and you were like, dude, this is so cheap to just go ahead and sign up. We have raised prices since then, but it was so cheap at the time. And you jumped in, and it's been really cool getting to see your team evolve over time. But they came in with such strong fundamentals from your training that it made it super easy. Like it's really easy for me to take somebody who's like a 7 out of 10 and bring them up to like a 9 or a 10 versus like, man, if you're giving me somebody that's like a 1 or a 2, I'm like, guys, you're asking me to do God's work out here. Like, so you had done the
Right.
heavy lifting of getting some good fundamentals in. But man, thank you so much for that. Let's take a step back because I remember from one of our first conversations, dude, you used to own like 80 rentals. You were a Burr guy, and you were telling me you're like, dude, I own all these properties, and I was going broke. Like it was just not
Yeah.
good at all. Tell me about that piece of the story, how
Yeah.
you got in the land, and then just like your timeline to
Yep.
where we are now.
For sure. And so basically, I joined the real estate investing world a lot of times where other people are like listening at bigger pockets, and I house hacked about a 3 unit building. Um, you know, from the jump, I feel like residential real estate has just beat me down. I got a $10,000 stolen from me when I was like a long time ago from a contractor, John. I had to move back in with my parents for 6 months, and my no, then girlfriend, not even wife then, we were driving into the city to like find contractors, and like I remember renting like furnaces from Home Depot and like extension cords because we only had certain parts of our building that had electricity, and so we'd like move extension cords like 40, 50 foot extension cords, put them together and like paint the stairwall in our building because we live in Pennsylvania, it gets cold in the winter, and we would put the furnace next to it so it would dry because we didn't even have HVAC because the $10,000 were for the HVAC.
Wow.
Eventually, we made it through that, and it ended up being a really good investment. We used the FHA 203K loan to do it. And then we bought another apartment building. Then we bought another 6 unit building, and then single family, and then really just compounded from there. Like we had like a bunch of investors that were like, "Hey, here's private money or whatever," and then we bought about 65 units thereafter, just burring. Right. The thing is with real estate is, and this is why I've been able to be so successful in land, is like I'm very good at the sales and marketing. I'm not really good at the management.
Yeah.
And so my investor DNA is on the front end, really good at
Right.
that, right? But I ended up, managing. We had disaster after disaster with that, and then we decided, hey, we're gonna give ourselves even a bigger disaster. We're gonna buy a 5,500 square foot, 5 bedroom, 5 bath house in the Rocky Mountains,
Oh my
Airbnb it,
gosh.
because we wanted to move there. And so, we were like, oh no, we're on top of the world. Like I wholesaled a couple of larger apartment buildings. And then the day before Thanksgiving, at this point, it would be, coming up on 3 years. My wife lost her job. All the while I was playing entrepreneur, and my wife had a really stable job. And so we were able to feign the fact that we were successful. We
Mm,
feigned that we were successful. And so I had to go out and make that bag, right?
yeah.
And so I found land
Wow.
investing. And dude, it was like, had limited cash. We had no more cash flow. I had to pay for my wedding because my parents didn't have enough money, and my wife's parents didn't either. And we were getting married in Spain that summer, and we're like, dude, I gotta like buckle down. I gotta be a man, right? And so, I was fortunate to have the experience that I had because I had, ran a wholesaling and house flipping company for a company that I worked for, and so I knew how to do this really well. And so, had a couple of good mailers that hit after the first mailer didn't make any money on it, and then just kind of scaled from there, man. So it's been crazy. 80-hour, 90-hour work weeks to just keep it going. And I eventually sold the place in Colorado, took a massive haircut, and have been slowly dislodging the rentals as we scale this business. But it's been good. It's been good. Now we have a 25-person team.
Yeah.
Obviously, you said we did three million in projected profit, which doesn't mean actual profit. Doesn't mean
Right.
actual profit. Doesn't mean realized profit. This month, which is by far our best month, and we're really moving. We're really moving quickly now, but wasn't always like that.
That's amazing, man. Well, congratulations to where you are now. I really want to spend, this maybe hour we've got with you to just break down your business today so that everybody watching, we've got almost 20 live with us right now, and we'll get a bunch more on the replay so that everybody watching can see how do I duplicate what Clay's doing? Because, man, some people, Clay, you and I both know, man, some people, they just want to make 6 figures a year, right? And then after that, it's, well, I want to make a 500,000. And then after that, it's 6 figure months, right? And you're basically cracking into like, oh, we're starting to hit 7 figure months, which is, not a lot of people have really tapped into where you are. So I want people to understand how can they duplicate either pieces of your business or what it looks like now. And so let's drill down for a second. Let's start with can you help me understand the timeline from your wife lost her job, you basically dove back into okay, I got to revamp this thing and actually make some money. What like year was that? If you remember what month that was, when did our land business when was conception? And
Yeah,
just so I
conception,
understand
conception.
our runway and where we are today.
So I knew about it in the fall, that fall, which would have been 22,
Okay.
the fall of 22. I
Okay.
knew about it. I heard about it because I was starting to see the white writing on the wall with the lack of cash flow. I mean, these buildings, man, they're like, I think you're a Chicago guy. And these buildings are built in 1900. And so the CapEx on these buildings are ridiculous. And so I started to see the writing on the wall, and so I started investigating. But it didn't really kick off in earnest until uh, probably like December was when I started to really move quickly and buy the courses, right? And so I was like, man, December of that year, I started to send out mailers. And, I was not in a position, I was like, dude, I'm in a position of like desperation.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had been doing the entrepreneurial thing through rental property. So I was like, I don't want to go back to, having a job. And so I just started sending out mailers at that point. And then, we got some couple of good deals. Started to be in February. of that year, March, and then some of them dispoed very quickly.
Nice.
And you know, then I hired. I mean, how in depth do you want me to go
No, man,
with
keep
like?
giving this timeline. This is good.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
good.
So then I hired a lead manager, kind of a lead manager's type, and a scrubber, like a data scrubber, and an outbound person, texter,
Okay.
and because that was when texting was going crazy, right?
Yeah.
And that those were my first three hires. So like basically admin data, basically lead manager, and then a texter at that point. And that's what my team started with.
Man, this is good. So that's so cool. You said this was fall of 22 and you really just started like small scrappy team, but things were working, right? Cash was good and flowing. Um, Clay, let's drill down now today. You mentioned a team of 25. I want to break down what your team is comprised of today. And then I'm gonna start picking apart your business here live in the best of ways,
Okay.
right? But you've got
Okay.
25 on staff, right? What are everybody's roles? And before you get into that, guys, I want to point something out about Clay that I think so few people see. Um, I audit probably more land businesses than 99% of people in this space. I talk to a lot of different operators, and there's so much head work involved of when you're growing a business, right, Clay? Where so many operators are like, yeah, man, I can't scale to six-figure months because I can't afford a US based closer. And I'm like, you can't afford a US based closer because you're not scaling to six-figure months, right? Like it's actually the other problem way around, right? And even beyond that, some people might say, well, gosh, what's going to happen if I run out of capital to fund deals? I'm like, well, that's a problem to solve for, right? We don't stop growing the business because we're afraid of the problems at the ceiling. Now, obviously, scale smart so you don't run out of like operating capital. Okay, so there's a balance there. But I think that the biggest thing that I learned from Layla Hormozy and watching all the Hormozy content over the years has always been every time we tell ourselves a story of like why we can't do something, that's actually the problem you need to solve for. Oh, well, I'm not getting 100 deals a month because I don't have all those leads and closers available. Great, so go get more leads and more closers. And so what I'm trying to point out here is if you talk to Clay, you're never going to get that language out of him. He's never a guy like I watched this guy lose his like primo closer. All right, this guy had just had like a 400 grand month that this independent closer had brought in, and I'm on the phone with Clay 2 days later, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I got the hiring funnel back up. I got three new guys starting next week." I'm like, "What? This guy is so resilient." But I didn't hear you complain. I didn't hear this sap story out of you. It was like, yeah, it sucked. Part of business, right? People quit. Welcome to it, guys. Like you want to grow a multi six, seven, eight-figure business. That's part of it. But man, something I've admired about you as I've become friends with you is that you don't look at these potential ceilings as reasons why you can't grow. You look at it and say, okay, that's the next problem I need to solve for. Let's focus, let's drill down, and let's make it happen, man. So, anyways, I want to call that out about you because I admire it about you a lot, man. Tell us about what your team looks like today. All 25 of you.
Yeah. So I am at the top. If we're thinking about from the top, I'm a very like visual person, right? Like I'm at the top, and then next to me is the chief of staff, which is sort of a general EA slash projects executor. And
Okay.
I think pretty soon we'll have like an executive admin assistant underneath that person. And then below that person is my senior operations manager, right? And so they are, think about it, that they're like an integrator within our business. And then right below them, you could think of our sales, marketing, TC, fulfillment, like TC Dispo, HR legal, finance. Okay. So those are the columns underneath the senior operations manager. If we think about the sales team, we have our director of revenue, who's an executive, John, and he is responsible for the at this point, not really, because as you and I both know, we're working on other opportunities, but he's responsible for managing, hiring, and maintaining our sales function. Underneath him is three U.S. based acquisition closers, 2 compers, like 2 underwriters, and then 4 lead managers. Um,
Okay.
okay. And then if you go back up the organizational ladder, underneath then you have the marketing department, which head of marketing um, is again, they're responsible for everything in there. But I have realized again, I made a mistake. Like I'm very good at marketing, and so I need to be in that seat. Like I
Yeah.
like it, and I'm in that seat. Like I don't want to scale myself out of that. Right? Where I think a lot of entrepreneurs and specifically land investors they want to like scale out of the position, whereas that's where they make the most money in that position.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's like kind of operations plus me in that position. I'm more of a strategic role. And then we have our marketing manager. Underneath our marketing manager is 3 data scrubbers. Then we have our another marketing team, our cold calling, outbound manager with 8 callers underneath him. And then, we have some other outbound departments, right? Um, so that's that department. So marketing manager, then you have the kind of 3 tiers underneath them,
Yep.
and then going up to TC Dispo, we have um, operations at the head of that. Then we have transaction coordinator. Then we have Dispo manager, Dispo admin. So Dispo manager helps us list internally. Dispo admin is basically you can think about them as the catch-all admin for that position, and so that's that team. And then over in HR legal, um, we have our chief of staff that's kind of on that department, right? And then over to finance, we have a bookkeeping firm, and our operations and chief of staff is in there. I don't even know how many people that is, but I think it's 20. I don't know how many it is. 20. I
Yeah.
don't even know.
Man, I
But
feel like I just had a birthday last week and somebody asked me how old I was today and I had to think about it. I feel like that's how you are with hires, where you're like, oh shoot, I don't know, dude. Like between 25 and 30 probably depends on the week, right? 'Cause
yeah, 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 yeah.
you're growing aggressively. So it's a funny thing to watch, man. Am I allowed to ask? Feel free to tell me if this is off limits because we're live here. But like, dude, I have to know, like, what's your overhead looking like these days? Like
Yeah, yeah.
you feel free to not tell me if you
I
don't
can,
want
no,
to.
I can disclose it. I can disclose it.
Okay.
It's anywhere between like 55 and 70 a month.
Oh, that's actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be, man. I mean, that's pretty healthy considering the amount of revenue you guys are putting on the board right now. Now, obviously, you and I both know, you say 3 million pipeline profit, 60% of that closes. That closes at 80% of what we projected at, right? Probably still a really good 7-figure month, don't get me wrong. But
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking those profit margins, and then of course there's a cash conversion cycle that's a delay, which means in your OpEx account, I hope to God you're keeping at least I don't know, man, 200 grand at a minimum at any given time, right? Otherwise, I'd start sweating a little bit, So, but like that's the reality of running a machine at that size to be able to put up numbers like that. Let's drill down too on your lead gen for a second. You mentioned, was it 8 cold callers that you've got on your team now? So is that your only marketing channel? Is cold calling specifically?
We do direct mail too.
Okay.
So we do direct mail and we have some referrals. And we also have some other outbound channels that we're, working on, but
Okay.
they're kind of, yeah.
But your main bread and butter channel is your in-house cold callers, right?
In-house cold calling and direct mail. We get
So I
some
know
good
you
deals
do
with
a
direct
lot
mail.
of coaching, Clay. I feel like I've met a couple of your students. I feel like everybody that works with you has awesome experience. So you also audit tons of land businesses, see what's going on in the marketplace. Obviously, you're running your own 7-figure shop. Man, I don't know about you, but I'm seeing cold calling is smoking every other channel right now. I think texting is comparable for people that can get it to work, but there's a control piece where like it shuts down, you lose access, like you can't quite outbound at the scale you want to all the time. There's some nuance there. You're not able to hit landlines the same way. Um, man, I guess my first question is, what are you saying in terms of like the best performing marketing channels? Would you agree that cold calling is just performing better than anything else in land right now?
Yeah. So my opinion about this is, one channel to at least $1 million in gross profit. And so any channel is incredibly effective. But what people get wrong when they're approaching a channel is like, I'm going to do direct mail and then I'm going to do blind offers and then stop there. That they don't do any type of layering. They don't like go and say what type of people am I targeting? What am I A/B testing everything? Am I tracking everything? Am I targeting specific demographics? And so every channel is incredibly effective provided you're doing the right work. The reason why we're so good at cold calling is because do we we have an hour meeting every week. We do daily stand-ups with our cold calling team that we work on objections. They know how to comp. We've filtered through so many cold callers. We have an amazing hiring funnel for our cold callers, and we continue to get better. We have good spiff structures. We have good commission structures.
Good.
And so, cold calling is psychology too. There's a data component. There's a psychological component of your team that you need to keep them fresh. You need to keep morale high, and that will continue to have them producing outsized results. So I think texting works incredibly well too, provided you're doing the things that I'm saying, which is when you build a business, when you build a marketing channel, you don't just set it and forget it. You build it and say, how do I improve every single week? What's the feedback that I'm getting from my marketing channel every single week?
Right.
I will audit businesses like you. People bring me, hey Clay, like I'm at 300K. How do I get to 1 million? And we can quickly change things by creating faster feedback loops, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't have faster feedback loops. So, one thing you might say is like, Clay, how did you like go from not having a lot of money, 30K, and scaling this business quickly? Like I was committed to quick feedback loops. So the cash conversion cycles in our business, I don't know if you've ever seen like the Ray Dalio talks about like long-term debt cycles, short-term debt cycles, and like day-to-day marketing tickers. So if you think about the economy, right, there's like long-term cycles, there's shorter-term cycles, there's like housing cycles, there's all these sort of like waves in the economy, right? And a lot of times land investors think the only wave in their business is under contract to close. And that's not the only wave, because that's not enough data for you to start to make good business decisions, right? And so what they do is they try to use that as their only litmus test of the health of my business. And then they listen to some person on a podcast and I'm like, I'm going to put this marketing channel out, and they're not tracking the wave of the marketing channel. They're not tracking the feedback. And so they're saying, I'm going to put cold calling because I heard Ajay and Clay talking about it because it's such a great channel. It's like, right. But are we doing it properly? Are we implementing properly? Having the right people? Are we tracking the right metrics?
Yeah.
That's how you get to the level that you need to get to.
Yeah, that's so interesting, man. I think, what it reminds me of too is I don't know that I agree with a lot of this guy's philosophies, but it's one of Andrew Tate's buddies, Mr. Justin Waller out of Louisiana. I just remember the story he would say where he started making his money in construction. He would hang steel on metal buildings, right? And he tells a story about how one of his buddies is like, oh, like Justin found the hack. It's just you do the construction business and hang steel and you'll make a killing, right? And it's like, well, dude, you and I both know as business owners, construction's a very risky business, man. You're taking lots of debt. You're working on razor thin margins, usually between 10 and 30%. Contracts evaporate. People don't pay you on time. Contractors are rough, right? So this is a very difficult business. I think in the same vein as I hear you talking about marketing channels where everybody's listening to your point and they're like, cold calling's the hack. That's all I need to scale, right? And it's like, well, hang on, guys. Like this is a difficult business to run and manage and grow. And there's so many pieces about what you said that I really want to drill down on, man. You tell me if I touch any hot buttons that are off limits, because I'm just gonna tear you apart in the best way, brother. Like this is fun. This is my playground right now. So let's talk about. You said something that I think 98% of land investors, and honestly myself included, don't do well enough, and it's recruiting. Okay, you've mentioned to me twice your hiring funnel, right? Which is implicit that you are always recruiting, or you can always turn on recruiting like that, right? What I see most investors struggle with that are in that like 30 to 50K a month sort of like sandbox, the one I'm talking about, is they're like, I need to hire this person soon. I gotta hire this who's got a job magnet thing, right? Like who's got a job description I can post, where are you posting, right? And like those are all valid questions, don't get me wrong, but that's just where I see those guys get stuck. Whereas I talk to an operator like you or like Ajay Sharma, and it's like, man, that's not the same thing. You guys are constantly hiring, or you can flick a switch and you know exactly how to recruit, which is why when you know, lost a closer a month back, well, yeah, dude, I just got three more in like that. And I'm working with them and they're all killers, man. They're all killers. Right. And I'm
Yeah.
like, listen, I'm like, well, you don't sound green. And they're like, oh, yeah, I've got like 10 years of household selling experience. And I'm like, that's why. There you go. Well, then great. We just have to, again, I'm bringing a 7 or an 8 up to a 10 versus somebody who's a 1 up to a 4. Right. So, anyways, man, I'm asking a very long winded question. Tell us what your hiring funnel looks like, both for US based talent versus maybe your cold calling talent. It sounds like those might be two separate funnels. Like, what does that look like in your business, man? Break it down for me. How do I hire people like you do?
Yeah. So, right. This is the big problem. This is the problem to solve, right?
Yep.
The sooner you realize in this is, I'm going in cliche territory, but the sooner you realize that people are everything, the sooner that you sort of scale out of your business, right? So there's like the way I think about hiring people is, there's the process, there's the compensation package, and there's the culture, right?
Yep.
So, there is a consistent process which we can talk about in a second that produces results that you need to hire the good people. There's a compensation, and then there's the culture within your team, right? So, admittedly, I'm still figuring this out, and so what I'm going to tell you is could change in a couple of months because
Sure.
we're redoing this, and making it better. But first thing, like if I was talking to Ajay on a call, and I was like, "Hey Ajay, like I made like 3 offers this week. Why am I not getting deals?" He'd be like, "Dude, you're not offering enough.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have enough opportunities." That's where people fall down in this business, like
Right.
hiring. And it's like, "Oh, it's so boring. Like I'm gonna switch off this podcast." It's like, well, that's probably why your land business is at 30K a month and not consistently 80K a month, right? Because you don't have the right people. And
Yeah.
so this is a process. And so we have a very specific, like, we post on Upwork or online jobs, and then we have them fill out a type form, and they have to put a video in the type form and resume, and they have to answer questions. And then through that, we filter them down even further. And then we get on an initial call with them and see if they're a human being, 15-minute call. And then we have another call, depending on the role, which is a cultural fit. And then we have another call, which is a technical fit. If we're talking about different positions, but it's a funnel. It is a funnel, opportunity funnel. And so what we want to do is we want to prevent at the front end of the funnel the people that are not the right fits, right?
Right.
So giving you the analogy of land, Ajay, it's like if I told you that half of my funnel was houses, you'd be like, you're targeting the wrong thing.
Your data
We need to
sucks.
filter that. Exactly. Right. We need
Yeah.
to filter out beforehand. So the way we do that is built like a type form. So people submit a type form, they
Okay.
put a video together, they have a screenshot of their internet connection, those speed tests, those types of things instantly prevent us from making a bad decision. Right. And so what we're trying to do is get the low hanging fruit of the highest quality people.
Yeah.
Thereafter, then it's reaching out, and depending on the role, if it's more of an admin role, we'll do like group interviews, right? So people said, I don't have enough time, right? Well, we do group interviews with a lot of global talent to say, hey, we might have 5 or 6 or 7 people for a outbound position on a group interview.
Yeah.
And we're transparent. This is a group interview, and we're just trying to see what's the level of English, how hungry are they, how aggressive are they, how do they feel in an uncomfortable situation. We're transparent about it as a group interview. And so you can quickly compress those 7 interviews that would have taken your company 3.5 man hours into 30 minutes. And so what we're doing here is we're just removing barriers of action. We're streamlining this process. Obviously, with US based acquisition managers, we're getting on a cultural call, which is a chief of staff call, 15 minute. Hey, are you aware that this is a commission only position into this? Hey, what's your remote work environment? Can you work these hours? Do you have these standards? Does this compensation package, is that what you're looking for? And we can very quickly filter out the people that are not the right fits, right?
Yeah.
We also have assessments for our US based closers. So we use certain assessments, cognitive, behavioral, personality based assessments to we even filter them out before they even go through the initial cultural call, right? So, that's just on the front end of the funnel. You got to get a good job description too, but that's the process. Okay. The next thing is the compensation package, right? So people like, hey, I don't have good enough people. It's like one of my private clients who went through one of the big um, land programs. He's like, dude, I don't like, how do I hire people? Like, I don't know how to, like, I'm not getting any good people. I'm having to fire these people. And we looked at his compensation package. It was like, well, in the United States, if you pay someone $80,000 worth of 140, you're getting a completely different person.
Totally.
We don't extrapolate that to global talent. We don't say, hey, if I pay someone 800 versus 1400 for this specific position, the quality of talent is going to be exponentially different. But
Right.
we don't understand those reference. We don't have the point of reference for global talent. And so when I work with private clients, we look at all these things and we say, man, like this is what's successful in my business. A lead manager, a
Yeah,
good lead manager, dude, don't pay them $1,000 a month. They're not going to be good.
totally.
Or you pay them $1,000 a month and we'll take your lunch money, right?
Yeah.
So, this is 1,600, 1,700, 1,800, 2,000 a month for a very good international global talent based lead manager. And so the
Yeah.
compensation is super important. Ajay, if you want to butt in at any point,
No, man, I'm learning as you're
okay,
talking.
okay,
Please.
okay.
I've got less hiring experience than you, and this is something I'm actively working on, especially on our distress side. So
Yeah.
I'm all ears, man. Please keep going.
Yeah.
I have not seen, I've seen two people leave the live in the past 20 minutes, which is a sign of like people are hooked right now. And guys, if I see so many of you on here live with us, please like drop questions in the comments so we can ask Clay some questions towards
Yeah.
the end. We still have some time with him, but like keep cooking, brother. Keep cooking.
Yeah. It's just, what we have to understand is like obviously there is the process component which we have to streamline this process on the front end, right? To make sure that we're hiring the best people.
Right.
And guess what? It's going to take more people than you think it's going to take, and
Yeah.
people will settle for less than the best, right? Don't do that, right? Because guess what? In 60 days or 90 days, you're firing that person. It's a pain in the butt. It's not worth it. And so, on the back end, the actual compensation is super important. Which every transaction coordination, what's the best level versus lead manager versus data scrubber versus all these executive assistants. Like, how do you know the difference and how do you quantify that? That's important, right? Same thing with acquisition managers.
Yep.
And so those are the compensation, and then the culture. Like when someone comes in, how do you actually onboard them and accelerate them to understanding the culture, the how your company works, training, hiring. That's something that we're still working on, man. We're
Yeah,
working.
yeah,
We're
100%.
we're building out an entire Notion system that will expedite and upskill our team members that come on right away, so we can have someone coming and producing quickly. A SaaS role, an acquisition manager is, it's 90 days to ramp. I'm like, dude, we can ramp in 2 weeks.
100%. 100%. Yeah, that's so good. So let's before we drill down on culture, I want to come back to compensation for a second, because I feel like this is a conversation I have with people in the inner circle pretty frequently is, hey man, I just hired my first US based closer. I'm like, yo, congratulations. And they're like, hey, can we talk about their compensation package? I'm like, yeah, sure, let's go. Dude, and they're like, they're paying them like a 2% commission and like a very low base. And I'm like, hey man, would you be excited to like close deals on Saturdays if this was your commission structure? You know what I mean? And I realized this tweak that I had to make in my own business at one point, where the reality, Clay, is like the top tier salespeople, the people we want to say are a talent, can go out to any sales role in the country and I would say make a minimum of 80 grand a year pretty quickly. Minimum, right? Any A talent that's not making six figures in a big market feels like they're losing. But you can get, I say minimum because you might get people in like a secondary or tertiary market in the country that live somewhere where their cost of living is pretty low, or maybe that's different. But you start getting a talent that has got good experience, that has been in the sales world for a bit. And now, like, man, to your point, people are going to want to make closer to 120, 180 if they can, right? Which scares so many people that listen to this because they're like, oh, Ajay, like my business barely makes 240. How am I supposed to pay somebody 180? I'm like, well, dude, you got to crank up the lead gen, spend some freaking money so you both make more money. Like these things are not mutually exclusive. And I think that's the mental barrier so many people struggle with is they're like, well, if I hire somebody, they're taking from my pie. And it's like, no, dude, we're making the pie bigger so we can all eat. You know what I mean? So again, this is something that I feel like you just do so freaking well, man, is like you don't have that scarcity in your brain. You're just like boom, 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 grow, grow, grow. Like, let's get good people in here, right? So I wanted to highlight that point, man. But let's go ahead and pivot to culture, because I think
Okay.
culture is where you really you either retain talent constantly or you train talent constantly, right? And what I mean by that is if you have trash culture, people leave or you fire people very quickly. And so you're training constantly. And if you don't have a good training process, you're screwed, right? Or you retain talent really well if you've got a strong culture. That doesn't mean you're not training constantly because you're growing, but it does mean that you're having different conversations, you're developing a lot of your staff, right? The team begins to look different over time. So anyways, man, can you speak to like what you guys are building out in terms of culture where you're excited to come to work every day, Clay, and you think your staff is excited to show up? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think of culture building like insurance. So
Okay.
like you don't need insurance until you need it, but it's kind of this unseen protection. And the most expensive thing in business, particularly, from a monetary perspective, but also from an owner's time perspective, which is I don't think a lot of people quantify this, is the time that you allocate towards training people. And so there needs the building blocks of like a good culture, in my opinion, right? You could think differently, is you got to have some place that you're going. You got to have a set of rules, a set of core values or non-negotiables that you operate within that inform the culture. And then underneath that, there has to be very clear KPIs and accountability and outputs that everyone is accountable for. So it's basically a pyramid process. So the most important is where we're going. If the second layer of the pyramid, like think about a food pyramid, right? Second layer of the pyramid is the non-negotiables or the core values. This is what we do implicitly,
Okay.
and explicitly. And then the last layer is KPIs, outputs, right? So
Can you give us an example of your non-negotiables? Because I think that's something people don't hear about a lot. I've been following Patrick Bet David for a long time. He speaks a lot about non-negotiables, which are the same thing as standards, right? A
yep.
really easy example is in a marriage, non-negotiable, don't cheat on me. Very simple, right? Most people can agree that's pretty agreeable, right? In your business, what do the non-negotiables look like, Clay?
Yeah, total ownership, proactive execution, speed is our edge, and competitively great. So I
Okay.
have them right here. They sit in we talk about them in every meeting. We highlight people and what they're doing, and they're four. And it's so in our business, speed is our edge is huge, right? Getting on the phone quickly, offering quickly, underwriting quickly. Proactive execution is when something goes wrong, we communicate it proactively,
Yep.
we execute proactively. Total ownership is when we commit to something, we follow through. When I say I will do something, I do something. And then competitively great is, look, we have individual contributors, IC on our team, salespeople, any individual admin roles, chief of staff. Like you shouldn't need to be pushed.
Right.
You should have your own motor. And this informs our sit down real quick. I got inspired. This informs our hiring process as well, right? Like do people exemplify these values? And then we validate that people when they come into our business, hey, we hired you because of this reason. And then you keep them accountable to that. So those
Right.
are our non-negotiables.
That's good, man. That's really good. Okay. So I want to drill down on your lead gen team for a second. I want to both talk about the number of the just sheer output this team is doing right now, which is phenomenal. But going hand in hand, as we're talking about culture, KPI accountability, like how you keep these cold callers excited to cold call. Because like between you and me, man, it's not a very exciting job if you're in it every day, right? So let's talk about that. On any given week, how many leads is your cold calling team spitting out right now?
Yeah, we're at about 20 20 leads per day.
If I was on Brad Lee's Dropping Bombs podcast right now, I would like hit that button. It's like,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
because
yeah.
like guys, he's doing three figures in lead gen every time. I've never said three figures before, and that just sounds like no amount of paycheck I ever want to get. You know what I mean? So,
Right, 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 right.
but unfortunately, some deals shake out to four figures. I can't think of any that have been three. But That's hilarious. But like, guys, 100 plus leads a week. Okay. And because Clay is a proud inner circle member, he drops his numbers in our channel, and I see, it's oftentimes between 120 and 160. I've seen. Like, it's not squeamish, man. It's not shy. That's incredible, Clay. I work with plenty of other folks that have similar numbers of cold callers on their team in terms of bodies, but aren't producing that level of lead flow. So could you speak to how is your team performing so well in terms of output, man? What's that look like, and how do you keep that machine running and keep morale up?
I have an amazing cold calling manager.
Okay.
And so we, yeah, I've trained him, and he has a good background as well, but I've trained him to, you know, help our team handle objections. They do daily stand-up, 30-minute stand-ups every day so that we have basically a team that is incredibly prolific in um, handling objections, making sure that we press through drop calls, all the hard skills that they need. Then on a soft skill perspective, we have like weekly competitions. I'm a big believer in competition, and so like Thursday, Friday, there's a leaderboard that's posted, and then we give everyone a little spiff. Uh, the top three team members, and so it changes every week, and people are like super excited. A lot of competition, and so people push really, really hard every week, and they get a little spiff. That's something I introduced, and it's been just incredible
I
to
love that.
produce these outsized returns because salespeople like that, like they want to run, and then we have monthly spiffs when you hit certain levels of lead production percentages and qualification percentages, and we of those we have actual again another spiff. So I pay my team commissions based on their activity.
Can you speak to your cold calling manager's comp package? Because that's a role not many people are familiar with. How are you incentivizing your cold call manager to then manage that team to perform well? What does that structure look like?
Yeah, so when our team hits, we have two tiers of hitting every month. When our team hits these two tiers, that he gets a compensation on each of those. So he
And
can
is
get
that tier like number based per rep, or is
it's
it
lead
like aggregate?
production percent. Yeah, it's lead production percentage, qualification percentage, attendance. It's a bunch of different factors that are added together to produce this like percentage output that we grade people on.
Okay, got it. And for those that don't know, like breakdown, what does lead production percentage and qualification percentage mean?
Yeah, so we have quotas that are monthly quotas that people have to hit. And so you hit these monthly quotas, you get you know, what it's like 1.75 leads per caller per day, right? That's the quota at
Yep.
this point. And so, quality leads, not just like people say, "Hey, I passed 5 leads today." It's like maybe one of them is quality. So you're not actually building a scalable machine. You're building a machine that's like bottlenecked at that point. So
Yep.
we use a lot of parameters on the front end to qualify these leads properly, so that when they push through, Ajay, they're ready to rock. They're like 35% to 45% qualified, which is like insanely high for cold calling leads, right?
For
Everyone's like,
sure.
oh, these leads are super hard to work, and so we do that qualification on the front end, and so we have a certain percentage of leads that or a certain amount of leads that everyone needs to hit. So lead production percentage is a percentage of their total leads per month, right? So if it's
Okay.
1.75 leads per caller per day, let's just say two for easy math, and there's about 22 business days a month, so 44, 100% LPP would be 100% of the 44. And
Okay.
so then there's a qualification rate. So like what if they do 160% of their quota, but their qualification rate is like 100% lower than what it should be, right?
Right.
Or their attendance is really bad. And so we put those all into our own proprietary blend and say, hey, you made
Okay.
your tier one or tier two, and you're successful because of that.
That's awesome, man. Okay, so that's super insightful, and I know I'm drilling down at some pretty deep levels right now, but I'm literally taking notes as you're talking because I'm genuinely curious. I think this is a level of depth that not many people in our industry really get to, and so I want to highlight just the amount of depth that it takes to truly be excellent at this, right? I want to hit this one more time. So just so I understand, with your cold calling manager, right? He's running daily stand-ups. He or she, I guess I don't know if it's a boy or girl, but they're running daily stand-ups, helping the team handle objections. And then they're compensated, I assume, some level of base pay plus some blend of tier one or tier two lead production percentage, qualification percentage. And if we hit these benchmarks that you guys have created internally, they get a bonus essentially every month.
That's right.
Okay, cool. This makes sense. This is good. I'm having fun if you can't tell. I'm having a little bit of I'm on a playground just a little bit right now, guys. So I appreciate you entertaining me and breaking this down, man. So we're bringing in upwards of 500 leads a month right now. You've got three full-time US based closers. You've got your lead gen, pretty dialed for the most part. Dude, what are you building to? Where are you going?
15 million dollars of gross profit by 2027.
15 million in gross profit by 2027. I knew you'd have an answer. That's so good, man. That's so good. And what are you imagining that makeup begins to look like? Like, what's your blend of, let me ask that a different way. What's your average deal size look like right now?
$34,439.
Is that realized or projected?
That's realized.
Nice. Okay.
It will
So,
be very different. It will be very different in like 3 months, but that's the current one, the current
okay.
realized.
Sweet, man. This has been super helpful, Clay. I want to be respectful of time because we got a couple of questions in here too. So we do have a few minutes left. It's 1:49 Central right now.
I could jam a little bit longer too. I got some extra time, so
Okay. All right. All right. So let's start with Mr. Vlad asked a question here of which position do you feel like is most important to hire for when you start building your team? So go back to the beginning. What do you think needs to happen first?
yeah, it depends on your in like your DNA as an investor and as a business owner, right? Um, but 99% of the time, Vlad, the good position to hire would be an admin based person to take your $5 an hour task, $10 an hour, $15 an hour task off your plate.
100%, man. I have to say this too. I was thinking about this earlier, Clay, where, man, would you agree? Now, there's some nuance here, but I'm going to throw a blanket statement out. It is so much more enjoyable to run a quote unquote like big business versus like a small one.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
do you
yeah,
remember just
yeah,
like
yeah.
solopreneur sucks?
It sucks.
Like just working by yourself is just awful. And I still have a small team, man. I've got a team of five right now, but they're all US based. They're all excellent at what they do. And I love it. Like, man, when I need something done, I can ask my team. Nobody's ever complained about work. Like, my team loves showing up. We love working together. We were joking about my team's remote right now, and they were joking about moving out to Texas because I'm building out an office here. Like, it's cool, man. So, all that to say, though, it is just way more fun running with people that you enjoy. And then, honestly, being able to delegate is just such a blessing. Such a, like,
Amen, man.
yeah, and you know what I mean
Amen.
when I say that. So, guys, if you're listening and it feels really hard as you're running this with a small team, I'm gonna be straight with you. It is really hard with the small team, and I understand needing to keep low overhead while you've got low dollars. But I think to Clay's point, I'd encourage you to take low dollar hour and tasks off your plate, replace them with high dollar an hour tasks, right? High dollar per hour tasks. That's the contingency day. Don't just work 2 hours a day. No Tim Ferriss 4 hour work week over here. We should have some level of spend time with your family, please, and like be a good husband, wife, father, brother, whatever. But also, please, by all means, like go make more money so that you can continue to invest in talent and marketing, right?
Yeah, I think that at different levels of your business, there are different like emotions that you feel. So like the first level when you're starting out, like when you don't have an person, you feel like pain. You just feel like, oh man, like I feel pain because I need like all these little tasks, right? The second level is you feel disorganized, right? You need a TC person on your team, and so that's when you start to feel quite disorganized. Third level is like you feel anxiety because you don't have enough leads and opportunity. That's when you feel like, hey, I feel super anxious, right? And then the fourth level is obviously like the sales level, right? And that's when you're like, I need more money, right? I need to bring more money into the business. And then the fifth level, the highest level, is when you bring on a leadership person, is you feel like completely overwhelmed, and you're like, I need someone else to help me drive this ship. And so each like business challenge, you feel a different emotion, and it's not like you're at any point you could feel a multitude of these emotions, and you're like, hey, if I feel this, like, what is this telling me? What is my body telling me here? And it's, I need a certain person to help me out, right?
Yeah,
And so you got to trust your emotions, and that's bad. Maybe what you're feeling is, the that first level.
that's great, man. That's great. Um, I've got another question on here. Would you say that your sales process leans toward high pressure or NEPQ style?
Um, I don't even know what NEPQ is,
It's like Jimmy
but
Miner's thing, which is more just like questioning and leading your prospect to decision.
high pressure, baby. We closing the call. No, no, we don't. We don't.
That's
No, no.
hilarious.
So I learned sales originally from John Martinez,
Okay.
who is a Sandler guy, like Sandler sales.
Yep.
And I've always been more of a question asker, right? Because um, he or she who has asked the question owns the outcome of the call, right? And so that is my team's sales style. But I don't like prescribe certain sales style to my salesperson, because when you have a really good salesperson, you say, here's the framework. Like what I always talk about is like, you imagine you're on a road. It's a double yellow road, and you have both sides of the road. Like the script is the double yellow line in the middle, right? So you're always orienting around that double yellow line, but you can go on both. You can kind of go between the both sides of the road, but you have to stay on the road. And so if you have different personality traits or characteristics, like you can go around the road, but like we want to use the script, which is a question-based framework, to um, take the seller through, right? Because the destination is on this road. We just have to follow the road. And so we just go from point A to point B, and the script is the road that we follow. We just don't want to get off the road.
Good. That's so good, man. That's so good. You and I are gonna riff about sales some this weekend too. I don't know who's I'll go into Colorado out for Peter and Drew's event, but so fun. Are you gonna be you're gonna be at the summit this September as well, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, sweet. So,
Yes, I
guys,
am.
if you haven't met Clay in person yet and you want to, he will be at the Land Scaling Summit here in Dallas, September 19th and 20th, with yours truly hosting. Clay will be there. Who knows? I may give Clay a mic because this guy's got some fire to spit. But this has been so freaking cool, man. I got to ask too, like, how can we help you? How can we get a hold of you? How can we work with you? What do you got going on right now? What can you give to the people?
Yeah, man. So I mean, I'm super active on social media, Instagram, Twitter. I have, I'm on YouTube, spitting game on YouTube. And for your audience, I've kind of built out this like operating system that I'm happy to give a freebie for your audience. We're launching it probably in the next week or so, and I can give your audience a first taste of that. So I'll
Sweet.
make sure you have that. It's the what I call the Land Architect OS, which is basically like, how do you actually architect. There's a lot of accelerators, right? There's like accelerate this, accelerate that, or build this or build that, but like we don't want to build a prison. We
Yeah.
don't want to build this business and make it a prison. And so, how do we actually architect the operating system of a successful land business? And so, I'll put that down below. It's going to be, man, jam packed of everything you need to do. In order to build a really, really successful land business, it's going to be Loom videos. It's going to be super jam packed. So I'll make sure that your listeners can get a hold of that, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey guys, to make sure if you're watching this live now or watching the replay and we don't forget to send this over to you, can you guys do me a favor and drop the word freebie in the comments if you want us to send that link directly to you? Clay will get that to us. He'll drop it. We'll also have myself or Kaylee DM it directly to you so that you don't miss it. I would hate for you guys to miss something from Clay, who literally just hit $1 million plus this month. So drop the word freebie in the comments and we'll be sure that gets over to you. That's great. So Clay, as we're wrapping up here, man, Our audience is a lot of people who have been doing land for a couple of years, are really trying to break out of like that 30 to 50K a month sort of barrier that so many people get stuck in, that like 1 to 3 deals a month, you know? Man, any last words of wisdom for everybody that's watching as we're getting finished up here? What did you wish you knew when you were getting stuck right there?
At every stage, there's a large problem that we need to confront to take our business to the next level. And sometimes the problem is apparent, and sometimes it's not. It's sometimes it's buried in a series of what I was talking about, the emotional ladder that we don't feel like we have clarity because we're just so in our business that we can't actually look at that. So solving that problem is the biggest role as CEO, right? So a lot of times when we're at the 30 to 50K a month, we don't really value our time. We don't value the fact that our role as a CEO is to solve the biggest problems of our business. And so if you don't know what the problem is, figure it out, right? Or have someone else help you figure it out. Have a consultant, a coach, a sales trainer, right? Have someone else help you figure out that big problem because if you can unlock a barrier like a log jam in your business, you think about, hey, I can't scale past this. You have all these logs that are just imagine this dam and the logs can't go down because it's just locked up. If you can have one person just or think spend the time with yourself to just unlock a part of that dam, the logs flow through, and all of a sudden your business starts to get consistency. But
Yeah.
people say, hey, Ajay, actually, I'm going to jump to this other side of the river and I'm going to try to undo this dam. And it's like, man, you got to go upstream, man. We got to focus on this dam before we focus on this dam. And a lot of people want to focus on the dam 2 or 3 miles down the stream, and they need to focus on the one that's preventing them from scaling at this point.
So good, man. So good. Clay, this is probably some of the highest engagement I've ever seen on a live before. People really, really loved what you had to say. Guys, will you drop a yes if I should have Clay back sometime in the next couple of months? If you'd be up for it, man, I feel like you've got tons of wisdom. I want to hear about this big launch you've got going on with the architect, land architect, and so that people that can benefit from that, can be a part of it. It sounds like people love that. I've got like 3, 4, 5 yeses already, man. So if you're up for it, we'd
Yeah.
love to have you back. But seriously, thank you so much up for your time, man. Get connected with Clay on socials, guys. This guy drops bombs on Twitter, on Facebook. He talks case studies. I haven't been on your YouTube yet, but it sounds like I need to, man. So seriously, thank you so much for coming out. It's an honor to work with you, a pleasure to be your friend, and I can't wait to spend some good time with you this weekend, man.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it as well. And yeah, we'll see you here in a couple days.
Sounds like a plan. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks.